Welcome to AV in the Wild, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of the pro-AV industry, out in the field, on the move, and in the moment.
Hey everybody, welcome to AV in the Wild. I'm joined by Iffat again, and we've got an amazing host also joining us, Sam Grierson. Sam, tell everybody about yourself and why you're here with us for AV in the Wild.
Thank you. What an amazing experience to be here already. Thank you for inviting me. So yeah, I'm Sam Grierson. I am a later life writer and film director. I do have a day job as well. But I think that later life part is really important as part of my journey.
Yeah, fantastic. Iffat, what do you know about this whole thing? Because again, you've delved more into this, and I know Sam's got a session she's doing later on with you as well.
So as you know, I co-lead the Avixa Women's Council for the UK, and diversity has been a little bit of a soapbox for me for the last few years with my What If podcast as well. And really, we are so lucky to have Sam on board as a keynote speaker this year, because we've had people in the past, and I'm so excited, and I've invited so many people to get up to CC4 this afternoon, because I think your message is going to resonate regardless across the board. It's going to resonate with everybody. I think, and as somebody who's getting older, I think sometimes as you get older, you do put more blocks in place, thinking that, well, that's a younger person's, opportunity, or they won't want me because of my age. And I did watch the Netflix series where the girl lies about her age, and I loved it. Younger, it's called. To get the job that she wanted. And it's just all these things. Life's hard enough as it is, but you've pushed through, and it's an amazing story. So in your own words, what happened?
Thank you. I think as part of my journey through diagnosis with neurodiversity, I was diagnosed autistic back in 2018. And I know that doesn't sound very long ago, 2018, but actually, if we roll back to that time, there was nothing on the TV for an autistic woman to look at.
No.
There was no TV shows, there was no films, there was Rain Man. And I'm not good at maths.
No.
So, I'm like, what kind of role models are there? I'd always known I was different because I'm gay. And I often thought my gayness was what made me feel different.
Right.
But then I got to that point and I realised it's not just that I'm gay.
And did people tell you were different?
Oh,
or were you telling yourself?
Constantly.
Right.
I mean,
so
from school,
it's reinforced.
it was obvious that I was definitely behaving. I used to read encyclopedias.
Right.
And I'd get special interests and things like that. But it wasn't until my eldest child was diagnosed at the age of 4 that we started to realise, actually, when you look down these list of traits, and I looked down this list of traits, wow. And it was on the back of that diagnosis that I began my journey. And realising I was autistic was it was a massive shock to the system. And I always say to people, if you're going through a diagnosis process, thinking you are and knowing you are really different things. And what that does, and the journey you go on in your head, and that grief process, the acceptance and the denial, it's really important to acknowledge that.
A lot of people I've spoken to talk about a feeling of almost liberation, where they actually finally understand what it is and start to. I mean, I don't think any of us understand ourselves ever. I believe like every day you're learning something else, and
life,
and the way you respond to things, and you learn so much about yourself anyway.
Yeah.
But to have something so major, how was that?
I often refer to it as like a later life plot twist. The end of a film.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you have to watch the whole film again and go, now I know that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I remember replaying when I was 4, when XYZ happened, and then when I was 7 and 12. And you think, crikey, if only I'd known, if only an other adult had known and could have actually said, it's okay that you respond like that. And that's when the sadness and the grief comes. And I think it's okay to sit with that 4-year-old and say, it's okay that nobody at the time knew. And I do think you need to process that, because the enlightenment and the joy, if you like, and the relaxation that follows, I think is part of that process. But you do need the replay when you're remaking sense. And then when I later was diagnosed as ADHD as well, to complete the picture, the same process happened again, a bit faster.
Right.
But you do that retro revisit.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a complete spectrum, isn't it? That's what the thing. It's
Yeah.
not black and white, and as I say, it's not, you know, oh, you're this or you're that. There is a spectrum, and we all are on that spectrum in some ways. And I think one of the other interesting things that you mentioned there is to say, when you go through that diagnosis, there is that fear that, okay, if I'm not that,
Yeah.
then what am I?
Yeah.
And it's that potential fear of, as I say, you know, if I'm not ADHD or ASD or whatever it might be, then why have I got these traits? You know, being able to classify them in that way.
Yeah. And even when you are given a label, and you know, labels are helpful to a certain point,
Yeah.
and there's a point where they're not. I know that from the LGBTQIA plus spectrum as well, in terms of, you know, where we all identify. But I think for me, when I got my diagnosis of, obviously I'm already gay, I'm now autistic, and later got ADHD, I spent a period of time going, am I doing that because I'm autistic? Is that my ADHD? And then I kind of went, oh, I'm just Sam. And I've got to the point of
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
That's who I am,
needed the
identity,
labels.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I had to go through the process of taking it on, living with it, feeling
Yeah.
it, replay,
Yeah.
to accept. And now I'm less worried, but I completely understand the importance of the labels,
Yeah.
even if we then reject them.
I think as human beings, I mean, it goes back to caveman, right? It's the fight or flight. Somebody,
Yeah.
if there's danger approaching, whatever, and that's why we're drawn to people that are similar to us, and we see it. I talk about boardrooms, you know, that the boardrooms are full of people that all look the same and they're all making the same decision. They don't want to mix it up and have someone different in there, and it's unfortunately it's just the way we are built. So we do want those labels and we want to put people in boxes, but I completely agree with you. It gets to a point where it actually is no longer helpful,
Yeah.
because you are prejudging and you're thinking, oh, but she's ADHD, so she won't want to do that. So you might, you know, for managers and for people, and even in relationships, you might just be making decisions for people because of that label.
Or excuses.
Or excuses, right?
Excuses, yeah.
So how do we deal with that?
I think the most important thing is to treat everybody as an individual, because if you say to that person, what adjustments do you need? You know, I came in here and said, please can we turn the lights down? But every autistic person isn't like that.
Yeah.
And it depends on your percentages as well. I see myself as 80% ADHD and 20% autistic. I made that up. That's how I self-identify. And so I've worked with somebody on a previous project who was OCD with autistic.
Yeah.
We were completely different,
Yeah.
utterly different, and I had to work out how to work together, because I'm like bang, 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 now, go, 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 and they wanted it written down and slow and it predictable.
Yeah,
And
structured.
and just
Yeah.
because we're both autistic didn't mean that
No.
we would fit. So
One size doesn't fit all.
It's a person, I think.
Yeah. And the cookie cutter just doesn't
Yeah.
exist. It's not a thing.
It's a spectrum. That is, you know,
Yeah.
autistic spectrum disorder. So my son has ASD, and it is that spectrum again where you are. And it's interesting you put that percentage on,
Yeah.
you know, which bit of which, because he's more ADHD than ASD, but he had a friend who was way more autistic than they were ADHD, and again you could see the traits, and as you say, they came together because they found that they had that tribe.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I mean, we've got someone else in the room, but his mum, we met on a plane, and I think she just knew that I was ADHD. She's diagnosed, and again, we are like a tribe now. We're together. She
Brilliant.
just knew, and we kind of locked in. That we
And it's
were in
creating your safe spaces, I think,
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
It's knowing that
Yeah.
people, that feeling of acceptance, that, you know, that you belong somewhere and that people get
Yeah.
you. It's so important to us as human beings to have that feeling and feel that people want to be around you, and all of that, which I've seen with friends and some of the stories they've told me about being excluded because they were, you know, they're because of their nuances, and we've all got them. It's all, you know, it's good.
And we were talking again. One of the things that again my son really picks up on is the fact that it is actually a superpower. It's
It
a
is.
tool that you can use if you harness it in the right way. And you were saying about, you know, organisations, or, you know, putting people the same in what they need. But the thing with, again, certainly from an ADHD point, and you said about encyclopedias, it's that hyperfocus.
Yes.
If you're interested in something, you will double down. You will really go to town that. But if you're not, then obviously you won't. So again, it's trying to then harness that power and value that you can provide through this this thing you have, these skills that you have, and harnessing them in that way. And again, organisations, I think, can really, if they, rather than going, okay, you're over here, you're over here, okay, let's really focus you on what you're good at, and then that becomes something that's really valuable.
So talking about what you're good at,
yes.
tell us about,
you found this out and harnessed it.
I mean, I've got so many questions for you, but where should we start? You choose. You know, the writing, the success that's come from that, the characters that you've created. How much of those have you based on you or on people you know? You know, just talk us through that journey.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, I do say later life writer because I don't have a background. My degree's in criminology.
Wow.
So it's nothing to do with my day job. I'm a strategist and I work sort of in marketing and propositions. And it's not in my creative world either. So I'm later life to this. And because I wanted to tell stories and I wanted to get them in front of people, that I took my experiences. My first play that I wrote by accident is called Crocodile, and the main character is called Crocodile, and the name just came to me, and I just sat down. I'd gone on a writing course, not really because I thought I was a writer, it was just I needed to take a week off work, and Googled the week off work to see what was available, and there was a writing course, and that my history was set based on fate. So I went on a writing course, and the writing course was meant to be about prose and short stories, and I got a play in my head. So I kind of tuned the course out. Audacity is my brand. I tuned the course out and I sat there to write this play. But I realised when I was a few scenes in, I didn't know how to write a play. So there was a library in the building where this writing course was, and I flicked in the break and I got speed read some plays. And I was like, pattern recognition. Okay, so the play's pretty much 3 acts. Set it up, screw it up, fix it. Awesome. I can write plays. Simple as a pattern, yeah? So I go back, I tune the course out, I'm sat there, they feed me, I sit there, I write this play. And by Friday at 5 o'clock, I printed out 60 pages of a play I'd written.
Wow.
Amazing.
Just because it occurred to me, and...
But that's your hyperfocus, right?
Yes,
That you're
yeah.
talking about. That's where the superpower is amazing, yeah.
Exactly. The downside of the hyperfocus, I was once working on a spreadsheet at work, and I was utterly hyperfocused in it, and I had my legs crossed, like I have now, and I was like that for 3 hours.
Oh no.
And I got up, all of a sudden thinking, I need a drink. And I got up at speed to walk out the room. Unfortunately, my leg had gone dead, and as I tried to leave the room, I fell over and broke my foot.
Oh my gosh.
So there is a downside to hyperfocus, but it's absolutely locked in. When it's something like you said you're interested in, absolutely locked in.
So what happened after Crocodile?
So after Crocodile, COVID hit, and first thing you want to do with the play is put it on a stage.
Alright.
COVID wasn't good like that, so not to be defeated. I got some handheld, you'd laugh at them at this conference here with all this amazing kit, but some handheld recording devices that had a little card thing, and I'd met Heather Peace, who's in EastEnders and things. If you know Heather, she's amazing, and I'd met her previously and asked her if she would play the main character Crocodile, because she's from Halifax, so from Bradford next to Halifax, Yorkshire, where the character's set. And I sent her this recorder, and I cast 2 other people, and we recorded it, as terrible as it sounds, on handheld devices.
Like old dictaphones almost.
Yes, they uploaded it on WeTransfer to me. We had a sound editor, we stitched it together. And I'm sorry to blow my own trumpet, it's Audacity again, but it sounds amazing given the technology we used.
Brilliant.
Just, again, Audacity, and just, I'm not seeing obstacles.
But your creativity's coming through, which is which is brilliant.
Yeah, and then so that was set in England, and I say England on purpose. I was in the bath a while later, and this character came into my head of a woman in her 50s who was Welsh, and she was a face painter, and she was terrible at it, and she was really lonely, and she had no friends, and she goes into the post office and puts a sign up for face painting, advertising her face painting services, and then this posh English woman comes into the post office, mishears, and thinks she wants a fence painter, and books her.
Oh, brilliant.
She books her, so she turns up at this big posh house with her face paints, and this, and then comedy ensues, and they make a fantastic relationship. Brilliant. And it's all about later life autism diagnosis, etc. And while I was just about to record that, I'd reached out to a few actors through their agents, and Miriam Margulies' agent came back to me and
She's
said,
amazing.
Miriam's interested in working with you. She'd heard about what I was doing. And I was like, about to record Mole, my Welsh one. And I thought, oh, I need to write another one for Miriam. So I'm like trying to record this. I said to the agent, I said, that's brilliant. Let me send you a press release. Okay. So I'm like, well, I've done England, I've done Wales, I'm going to do Scotland. And Miriam's background's Scottish. So I wrote this story about a camper van trip across Scotland with her considering an autism diagnosis. She was playing a character that was 90 even though she was 80. And so I write this play for her while recording Mole, send it over to her. She loved it. I went to her house during the very end of COVID. She was absolutely wonderful to work with. And we recorded the third of my trilogy. So I did sort of England, Wales, Scotland. And then I put them out. But there was no content before, and I wanted to use comedy. I like to use humour and comedy to get things across to people. So that's how it started, using audio plays because of COVID, because it wouldn't let me put them on the stage.
Absolutely amazing, just brilliant. So for somebody who, how do you feel about being our keynote speaker? You know, with all that background, you don't need to do it. I know why you do it, but can you tell people listening your motivation for sharing your story?
Well, because nothing existed, I want it to exist, and all my content is free. So my film that I later made with Michelle Jerram, who plays an autistic non-binary lead character who talks about grief, being interviewed by AI robots. That content's on YouTube and it's free as well. My next film, which is about menopause, called The Pause, and it's a horror. It will also be free when it goes out. My motivation is to get stories in front of people without a barrier of pain. That I want it to be really accessible, just so that people have got role models and they can read those stories and experience those things. The best thing for me is normally what happens when I have a keynote speech like that is it's in the interaction with 2 or 3 people who come up to me at the end. They don't want to ask a question publicly. They'll come up to me at the end and they'll say to me, thank you, I'm going to get my diagnosis now. Or I've been thinking about it, or my friend is, or my daughter is. And I do it for those 2 or 3 interactions that I will get at the end, touching people's lives. That's why I do it, that moment.
So I was going to say, so selfishly, again, bringing myself into this, my son has been clinically diagnosed. I haven't.
Yes.
But I can certainly, again, like you were saying, for your journey, I can see all or if not many of the traits that he has through me. For anyone listening to this and watching this, that again can recognise some of these things, where should they start? Because again, there is that idea of like, oh, you know, if I go through this diagnosis process, I'm then going to have a label, or if I'm not, then there is that, like, what's wrong with me? Why have I got this? So again, anyone listening to this or watching this, how do they start? How can you help them get on that journey, and what should they do?
I'd say they're already on the journey if they're asking the question.
Yeah, that's the first thing, ask the question.
Exactly, because if you are already thinking, I might be, then you are already on there. You've obviously seen some stuff that's now on social media, or you've watched a TV program and you've identified there's something about that there's an identification piece there. Obviously, you can talk to your GP and you can start that route. Yeah. But there are so many support groups out there now, so many Facebook groups, so many sort of online communities that you can join and start to have conversations. Because for me, it's about the communities and the networks, and that's why today's so important. And talking and making those connections, because it's that you'll get the strength from the other side of your diagnosis. So making those connections and networks.
There was one thing I was watching recently. There is almost not a backlash, but there's a lot of people thinking there's over-diagnosis of ADHD now. And again, some of it they're sort of saying is down to, you know, the way we work now with the cell phones, and everyone's glued to Instagram, and the algorithms continuously making us consume, again, that dopamine that people with ADHD don't have that dopamine connection. We are seeking it through scrolling. I mean, do you think ADHD and autism has increased because of the way we live our lives these days, with this high-speed flashing lights and noisy, you know, attention-seeking devices? Or do you think it's just always been there, it's just not been diagnosed? Do you think people are over-diagnosed? There's lots of questions there, sorry.
Yeah, I think the first thing to say is I'm not medical at all.
No, quite.
My experience is lived experience. And I think, like I say, in 2018, there was nothing on social media, no TV programs, nothing. And now we've got a lot of conversation about it. So I think that makes it feel like there's more conversation.
Yeah.
But I think people have always been people.
Yes.
And statistics haven't changed.
Yeah.
It's the way that we diagnose. I know female diagnosis, non-binary diagnosis is massively under-reported and under-diagnosed compared to the boys, because I think the modelling was all done on male traits and males.
On everything.
And
females
mask. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And classically we'll be better behaved at school and we'll be under the radar. I was very quiet at school. I didn't want any attention or anybody looking at me. And I think women experience the world differently.
Yeah.
And therefore, so I think there's many factors at play, but I think it's noisier because social media is noisier as well.
Yes. Yeah, so there is a lot. The algorithms, again, I remember with my son, if you put him in front of an iPad, his attention would be sucked in. You try and take the iPad away, and it's like, ah! But on TV, it was more because the algorithm wasn't kind of that making that addiction to try and tune into, again, that dopamine hit. And again, it's the way social media and the way that they're trying to grab that attention really does feed into that. So it's really quite divisive, in trying to suck people in these days. So.
Yeah. Working in the AV industry, we are surrounded by tech, and these shows are, I mean, this hall in particular was probably really overwhelming when you walked in. And it's not just the volume of people, but it's the amount of
noise.
There's just so much input coming from everywhere you look. And over the years we have pushed, so we do have a diversity council. It's actually currently led, she might be at the end of her term now, by somebody who is neurodiverse. We've pushed that conversation in all sorts of different directions, and now have spaces so you would have noticed that upstairs is a lot calmer.
Yes.
So there are some rooms where you can go and have time out and away from all of this, because we do need to do our jobs as well and show up for our employers.
Yeah.
So it's getting that balance though. And I think we're getting better. I think we're getting better at it every year. But what tips could you give, to live alongside this world that's just getting more and more AI or automated? And yes, it might improve our workflows and help with certain things. But how do what tips would you give, or that have worked for you, to sit alongside technology and not be overconsumed or frightened by it?
Yeah, I think it's about taking responsibility for your usage, and do it in a kind of a choice way rather than a habit way. So rather than, I try not to have my phone and constantly be checking it and checking for messages and things, and do it intentionally. Yeah. So I will try to say, I say try because it is an ongoing battle, but I will try to say to myself, I'm not going to check my phone 2 hours, and I'm going to be intentional about it. So at 12 o'clock, I'm going to check in on my emails, check in on my social media, and I'm going to park it till 2. And I think by trying to be intentional, all of us, regardless of diagnosis, but if we're intentional about it rather than allowing ourselves to constantly just be at the mercy of it,
Consumed.
But taking a little bit of that control back and putting some boundaries in and using that intentional thinking, I think would help a lot of people.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go on for hours around this, but you've got to go and do your keynote. So where can people continue the conversation? Where can they go and see your content? And again, how can they reach out and, let's say, continue this talk on?
Thank you. My company's called So Crocodile, after my first play, Crocodile, and I am So
cool
Crocodile.
It's a brilliant name.
It's nothing to do with an actual crocodile. So yeah, so if you Google Sam Grierson So Crocodile, I've got a website, socrocodile.com. All my stuff's on there. I'm on YouTube and Spotify, etc.
Fantastic. And you've got an amazing keynote that you're going to be doing for the team here at ISE.
I'm pretty sure it's been recorded, so for those people who can't, we are pushing the global community. This is the first time that the women are coming together as a global group. Mm-hmm. Even though ISE has been running for so many years, we've never quite managed to get an event together, so we're really excited from a council perspective. But thank you so much. It's been a real privilege to steal some of your time today, and I hope you thoroughly enjoy the keynote. And yeah, you'll have a fan. I'll be in the audience.
Thank you for all you do. Again, the fact that you're giving this, you're not paywalling it, you're not even trying to commercialise it. All of this stuff is educational to everyone for your storytelling. So again, personally, thank you for everything you do. Again, it's amazing meeting you, and I will definitely now be following you and reaching out on my journey as well. So thank you again. So thank you everyone else for tuning in. Go follow Sam. Go check out her works. It is amazing. Follow us on AV in the Wild, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
That's a wrap on this episode of AV in the Wild. Big thanks to our guests and to you, our listeners, for joining us on this journey through the AV landscape. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, share, leave a review. It helps us keep the conversation going. Catch us next time as we hit the road again with more voices, more stories, and more of what makes AV wild. Until then, stay curious, stay connected, and stay wild.